Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the 2018 Tallahassee's Black History's First in Government. This is a night of celebration, of honoring those that were first here in Tallahassee. How about the Honorable Al Lawson? What about Akeem Akinami? The beautiful Anita Davis. And Anita Favors. Dorothy Dot Emmon Johnson, have you heard of her? Doris Malloy. Gwen Marshall. Dr. Henry Lewis, the late James R. Ford Sr., and the Honorable Walt McNeil. Let's give them all a round of applause. It is our honor and pleasure to recognize them for their outstanding contributions to Tallahassee, and not only Tallahassee, but this country. Tonight, we want to thank them for their years of service and dedication, and for paving the way for so many like me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Listen, we gathered here tonight for a very special reason, and I wanted to personally invite all of you and welcome all of you for coming out tonight. This is Black History Month. However, there's something special about this first occasion and first acknowledgement of the first in Tallahassee. We'll continue to do this each and every year, but this is the first that you're a part of. Well, how did we get here and why are we here? It's because in talking with some of the kids in my church, and the kids wanted to know, how come we always celebrate the same people? I mean, Pastor, there's nothing wrong with Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass, but, you know, history occurs every day. And there are people who are making history right here. And I said, you know what? You're right. See what you can learn from kids? How many of you know that? And so we decided that we wanted to honor and award and acknowledge those who are the first in government right here. This is special, guys. This is really special. And so I welcome you here tonight, you know, to have a good time and to be able to acknowledge the people, you know, before your midst right now who are making history. Come on, put your hands together.
At this time, we're going to have our greetings from the Honorable Sean Shaw.
I'm happy to be here. This is a wonderful event to recognize, and I didn't know that's why we were doing this, Pastor. Recognize names you don't always hear. You are correct. That is wonderful. My father was a first as well, and so I'm happy to be here. My father is the late Leander J. Shaw Jr. Of the Florida Supreme Court. So I'm happy to be here and bring you greetings. And when I look around this crowd, I see so many people that I grew up with or that I spent a lot of time with growing up. So I'm happy to be here this evening, and I will enjoy myself as we learn about these individuals. So thank you.
At this time, we'll have the occasion from Mrs. Mary Catherine May.
Thank you, Dot, for inviting me here this evening. I am deeply honored to be here. I want to warn you, Dot has already warned me. I can talk about the subject I'm about to speak on all night long, but Dot said keep it brief. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So let's get right with it. This is a book I have written about Black political leaders in Tallahassee and Leon County from 1865. I quit in 2008. I couldn't go any further. Any rate, My book traces two civil rights movements in Tallahassee and Leon County. Now, most of you well remember the movement, the leaders, and the achievements of the civil rights movement in the 20th century. However, the first movement during Reconstruction in the 19th century after the Civil War is largely forgotten. So tonight I'd like to remember Tallahassee and Leon counties' very first black public officials. I want you to go back in time with me, 153 years to be precise. A little background. In 1865, at the end of the Civil War, the former slaves, now called freedmen, could not participate in government. That changed in 1867 when a Republican Congress passed the Reconstruction Acts, which granted citizenship to all freedmen and gave black males the right to vote and run for office. And Leon's jubilant freedmen rushed to join the Republican Party, the party that had set them free, the party of Lincoln. Next, Florida had to revise its constitution accordingly. So the state called a convention, scheduled a convention, and called an election to select delegates to rewrite the Constitution. Well, this election gave black voters their first opportunity to exercise their new rights. And immediately, a large number of black Republicans jumped into the race for the convention delegate. The events that followed were historic. Leon's black candidates campaigned from the steps of the Capitol through the bush arbors and the plantations, and frequently engaged in heated debates with powerful white Democrats, most of whom had owned slaves. One black candidate, a former slave himself, remarked at a rally one day that only a year earlier they would have been hung for attempting such measures. Meanwhile, the county appointed 3 voter registrars, one of whom was black, Reverend James Page, and I don't have to introduce him to you, I don't think, the very first black public official in Leon County. On election day, black voters outnumbered white voters 3-1. And of the 6 delegates elected to the convention, 5 were black. They helped write the Constitution of 1868 that greatly expanded civil rights for Florida's black citizens. Well, once the Constitution was revised, voters had to elect new state officials, including legislators, and black Republicans seized the opportunity. And once again, freedmen dominated at the polls, and Leon elected an all-black slate to the Florida legislature. 3 years later, in 1871, the first black men were elected to the Tallahassee City Council, as it was called in those years. William G. Stewart, Henry Sutton, Jonathan C. Gibbs, who just also happened to be the first black Secretary of State, first black cabinet member in the state of Florida, Everett C. Jones, and Reverend Jonas W. Torr. Those were your very first black city councilmen. And so it went. For the next 20 years, Leon freedmen held public office at every level of government, city, county, and state. Your legislature was black, overwhelmingly black, from 1868 until 1890. However, by 1885, Reconstruction was over. The Republican Party abandoned Florida, and white Democrats who strongly believed in white supremacy again were back in control of the government and again revised the Constitution, this time repealing many of the civil rights of the state's black citizens. Soon after, the Democrats closed their elections to black voters. In 1890, Leon's last black public official left office in the 19th century. 81 years would pass before another black person would be elected in Tallahassee and Leon County. Mr. James Ford, elected in 1971, the 100 years exactly from the year the very first black men were elected to the city council. Ford's historic election broke through the racial and social barriers in Tallahassee and Leon County, and others, of course, would soon follow his lead. There are too many for us to list tonight. We've all come a long way since the struggles of the 19th and 20th centuries. We may not yet have reached the promised land, but this time with vigilance, there'll be no turning back. Now, as I said, I could go on for hours, but I promised Dot I would hush in a hurry. And then her husband gave me permission to go just 1 minute longer.
You weren't supposed to tell that part.
Reverend King Solomon together this, the very first black candidate in Tallahassee and Leon County in the 20th century, 81 years. Okay. And I got to pay a little respect here to the lady who invited me tonight, Dot Inman Johnson, the very first and only black female ever to serve on the city commission. And I think this face will look familiar to you also. Mr. Al Lawson, the first African-American elected in the 20th century, the third African-American ever to serve in both the House, the Senate, the first African-American from Leon County elected to U.S. Congress, and the first and only African-American from Tallahassee and Leon County who has served in the State House, in the State Senate, and now in the United States Congress. Now, thank you again, Dot, for inviting me tonight. I want you to give a big hand to our projectionist over here, Miss Cynthia, we did this live and unrehearsed sort of thing. And I want to thank all of you for your very kind attention.
Good evening. Good evening. I told the pastor and Sister Johnson that I would not miss this for the world. When this was just an idea, they talked to me about it, and I got excited about it even then. And so I want to thank them for putting on this event and recognizing those that have contributed so much to making Tallahassee be the great city that she is, the all-America city that she is. And I want to bring you all greetings on behalf of our mayor, Andrew Gillum, and my colleagues on the City Commission, and say how proud we are to be a partner in this endeavor this evening and support these kinds of activities in our community as we celebrate the annual observance of African American history in the city of Tallahassee. I want to congratulate those that are being honored tonight. I can tell you, Dr. Lewis and Anita Davis, but for them, I wouldn't be where I am today. Henry was an example for me when he ran for the county commission, and but for Anita and her efforts as president of the NAACP, we wouldn't have had single-member districts. We would not have had single-member districts on the school board, and I would not have been elected at that time. But I just remember as a young man, as a student at Florida State University, people like our former commissioner and mayor, Dot Inman Johnson, and Jack McLean, and Mayor Ford, of course, that were all examples for me. And we stood on their shoulders to change the face of Tallahassee politics, hopefully forever. In that now we can not only be elected from single-member districts, but we've got constitutional officers that are elected countywide based on their qualifications for that office and not the color of their skin. And so I congratulate each of those who have served and who have been first in their respective positions, and thank all of you all for what you have done to make Tallahassee be the great city that she is. So again, congratulations, and thank you all for letting me be a part of this afternoon's program. Thank you.
At this time, we're going to honor so many that were trailblazers on the front line. The first honoree, none other than Congressman Alfred Al Lawson, Jr. Al, I'm gonna read a little bit about you, so you can hold tight for just one moment, because I want people to really know about you. Congressman Alfred L. Lawson. He is a true son of North Florida, born in Midway, Florida. Worked his first job picking tobacco in Gadsden County. So when you look at his hands, you might see them, they're a little rough from working them fields at the age of 8, where he learned the value of community and hard work. He graduated from Havana Northside High School, where he was a standout student athlete. I almost want to say he stood up and he stood out because he was tall. He went on to become a basketball star at Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in political science. He continued his studies at Florida State University, earning a Master's of Science in Public Administration. You go. As a seasoned and well-respected leader, Congressman Lawson has devoted most of his life to serving his community and our country. In '82, he held his first political office when he was elected to serve in the Florida House of Representatives, rising to the rank of Dean of the Senate. Prior to his election to the U.S. House of Representatives, from 2000 to 2010, Lawson served the Florida Senate, representing the 6th District, where he was elected to serve as the Democratic leader, and from '82 to 2000, he was member of the Florida House of Representatives. In his early part of his career, Natural Resources Committee, he also was part of the Preservation 2000 Act, and just a multitude of things that he accomplished in his early part of his career. He's also been a champion for state employees, public school, and all working people in North Florida. He fought for pay raises and benefits for state workers and vigorously strived to improve the quality of life for children and the elderly. In 2016, Lawson was elected as a member of the U.S. House representing the 5th Congressional District of Florida, serving 8 North Florida counties spanning from Gadsden in the west to Duval in the east. As a member of the House Agricultural Committee, he has worked to alleviate hunger among seniors, college students, and children in North and Northeast Florida and throughout the United States through his Let's Feed America campaign. For 30 years, Lawson has been a successful small business owner, operating Lawson Associates as an agent with Northwestern Mutual Financial Network. His years of dedication to public service was honored with the naming the Florida A&M Alfred Lawson Jr. Multi-Purpose Center Teaching Gymnasium. And the best part of all, he married his college sweetheart, yay! Dolores Brooks. She got a PhD. Former nursing professor at Florida A&M University School of Nursing. They have 2 adult children, Alfred III, Shania, and 3 grandchildren. And he's a member of St. Michael's and All Angels Episcopal Church, where he has held several lay leadership roles in rising to senior warden deacon. I present to you, and we honor Al Lawson. That's Congressman Al Lawson.
Thank you, and this is a very great honor for me and Dolores, my wife, here for 47 years. Yeah. Yeah. Henry, I can remember the years. Yeah. Yeah. I would like to say, Mary, when you started talking about King Solomon DuPont, I thought about when I was in high school in 10th grade, when I was working with him, and even today, when I drive down 27 going west, and I get down almost where the Cracker Barrel is located, that hill, that long hill that come down, he and I had to put grass on that hill. He had a contract, but I learned then how you put grass on a steep hill, starting from the bottom and going up. But I learned a great deal from him as a leader, as a minister, that was very influential in my life. All that I ever wanted to do when I was growing up is to be of service. My mom told me the greatest reward that you could have in life is to be of service to others, and I really kind of bought into it. And so that has been my signature of providing service. Really what really made me run for the legislature, because I was, at the time I had been coaching at FSU and left FSU into the insurance business, is at FAMU, and it's very significant because go for the young people, Lee Hall was boarded up, Jackson Davis Hall was boarded up, the library was in very bad shape, Perry Page was leaking, the Student Union Center was in bad shape, and I couldn't understand why the Board of Regents would let buildings be boarded up like that on a college campus. And so I found out that the only way that you can make a difference in changing the situation that exists at FAMU was through the legislative process. And that was the reason why I ran for office in 1982. And when I look and see Dr. Lewis here, who was involved in the office, I see Rudy Malloy that was involved in this campaign, and many other ones involved in the campaign. The political process is what all of us need to participate in. And you know, while I'm up in Washington, D.C., Washington is a very friendly community with dogs. And so I asked the lady one day, I said, why so many people have dogs up here? She said, you learned very early on in D.C., the only friend you got up here is a dog.
For you all don't know, Al, he can tell some good jokes. He's got some good ones. One day you should just sit down and talk to him and let him tell you some of these jokes that he has down in him. Anita's love for her community led to the development of the Nifty Enterprise Company. The company purchased houses from the city, renovated and sold them to low-income families. She also served as president of the Glenwood Neighborhood Association for 6 years. In addition, she served on the board of directors for African American Culture Center and was an active member of the Buffalo branch NAACP. She was a member of St. Paul's Missionary Baptist Church. Anita still visits Buffalo to attend the Pine Grill reunion, where she worked for 12 years. Anita and her family moved to Tallahassee, Florida in 1979 to reunite with her son, a student of Florida State University. Since moving to Tallahassee, Anita has been very active. How many know she's been active? Very active in our community. She has been president of the Tallahassee NAACP and Jake Gaither Neighborhood Association. In 1990, Anita started the Tallahassee branch of ACT, SOUL program. Ms. Davis was recently honored for her contributions to the Tallahassee community, which included a letter from Governor Charlie Crist commending her for her dedication to the citizens of Florida and testimonials for others whose lives she's impacted. You name it, she's been there, said Roosevelt Wilson, publisher of the Capital Outlook.
All right.
I present to you the honoree, Anita Davis.
All right, thank you. I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. And some I've seen just recently, some I never see, but I hear from them. And one thing that I don't forget is to thank God for the graces that He has given me. Because I have done a lot of things in our community, not just with our children and our old folk and people who love the Lord. I'm still out there fighting. You're never to give up. You're never to give out, but always give God the glory so that He can continue on your pathways. I'm not running for anything, but I appreciate I appreciate the kinds of things that I dealt with over the years. You know, you ever hear somebody tell you you're growing a little bit? I don't mean this way, but I mean this way and within that. And I think we need to realize to each other and honor this because you have to give up something in life, but don't give up doing good things in your community. It's always nice to hear, thank you, I appreciate what you've done. And I thank all of you who have had their hand in the pot sometime to tell the Lord, thank you for the leadership and also the fellowship that has been given to me. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I like what I do. Thank you. Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to present this next one to my friend, Dot Inman Johnson. There she is. Dorothy Inman Johnson, a native of Birmingham, Alabama, and youth activist in the 1960s. She participated in the civil rights movement. She's an author, artist, former educator, and passionate lifelong advocate for children, low-income families, justice, and civil rights. Though technically retired, right, since 2012, she continues her advocacy through her WTAL radio show and her weekly editorial columns in the Capital Outlook newspaper. She's a pioneer as Tallahassee's first Black female mayor and city commissioner. Now that deserves a round of applause. She is proud of what she's accomplished in that position and the legacy she leaves her family and community. Here's just a few of her accomplishments. She developed the Downtown Chain of Parks project, changing a grassy strip running through downtown into a pedestrian event space. Did you all know that? Downtown Chain of Parks. Made the Clayman Plaza possible by negotiating a pollution mitigation plan with the DEP and EPA. Removed the stop work order on that site. She participated in negotiations for the same. She created the city's utility rate stabilization fund. Reese, did you know that? You knew that. That deals with the electric program to prevent major peak increases in our utilities. She provided $50,000 grant to stabilize structure of the historic Riley House, created the Mini Pass program that aided capital funding for sidewalks and our ditches, the ditches in older Tallahassee neighborhoods. She coordinated a citywide project that restored the historical Greenwood Cemetery, made possible the construction of the Smith-Williams Annex by developing funding source that made it possible in the capital budget. And she also championed City Human Services Neighborhood Center and excellent parks throughout Tallahassee. Her work is nationally recognized as evidenced by positions she has held during her 8 years of service to Tallahassee and after. She was President Clinton's local government appointee to the National Advisory Committee on the Reauthorization of Superfund to Congress. In addition, she has written a number of books. One is Poverty, Politics, and Race in America, and Lessons from America's Best and Worst Cities. She is featured in Dr. Charles Connolly's book, The Most Segregated City in America, City Planning and Civil Rights in Birmingham, and Mary Catherine May's book, From Freedom to Free Men, Black Political Leaders in Tallahassee and Leon County. Dot is married to Reverend Lee Johnson, pastor of Love by Jesus Family Church Incorporated, and they have a blended family of 9 children, 20 grandchildren, and 1 great-grand. Dot Inman Johnson. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well, don't leave the telephone, she gotta play. So now you all know her little secret. She give us all the assignments, and then she just moves on. I love it, though. I love it. She's such an inspiration. At this time, we're going to have Pastor Johnson to come, and he's going to give the next 3 awardees.
You would never know Dot was married to a preacher being that brief, would you? Gwen M. Marshall, Clerk of the Circuit Courts and Comptroller, Leon County. Clerk Gwendolyn Gwen Marshall was elected Clerk of the Circuit Court and Comptroller of Leon County on November 8, 2016, making Clerk Marshall the first woman and African American elected to serve in that capacity. Prior to running for office, Clerk Marshall worked 17 years for the Florida Court Clerks and Comptrollers Association, advocating and serving the independently elected 68 clerks of courts and controllers for the state of Florida. During that time, she held various positions which gave her invaluable experience in dealing with local and state governments. Clerk Marshall moved to Tallahassee to attend Florida State University, where she received a Bachelor of Criminology degree in 2002. As a devoted public servant, dedicated civic leader, and effective manager, Clerk Marshall brings a determined energy to the clerk and controller's office and operates from a viewpoint that everyone has equal access to justice. I now present to you Gwendolyn M. Marshall.
I won't be as brief as Ms. Emmons, but I would be remiss if I don't thank all of the women here tonight that paved the way for me. Doris, you've done an amazing job. It's been amazing this first year just working side by side with you. Ms. Favors, Ms. Davis, I followed your careers over the last 10 years, and you're a dedicated public servant. Diane William Cox, and all the other women in the room and in our community, our unsung heroes, thank you, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve as your clerk of court for Leon County.
Our next award goes to Mayor James R. Ford Sr. Undoubtedly, during the 91 years of James R. Ford Sr.'s illustrious life, while accomplishing many tasks and reaching many milestones, he overcame numerous obstacles, some of which must have seemed impossible. But those obstacles did not deter him from realizing his goals. In 1972, the city of Tallahassee reached a significant turning point when it elected James R. Ford Sr. as the city's first African-American mayor. This accomplishment by Ford is accompanied by many other firsts, like becoming the first African-American driver's education teacher in Leon County, the first official to make city proclamations to African Americans, the first to appoint African Americans to the Tallahassee Housing Authority, as the nation's first African American mayor of a capital city. Ford was the first to advocate for the elimination of segregation practices and push to establish the Minority Business Department, the Frenchtown Development Authority, and the Affirmative Action Office. The first agreements between the city and county over fire services and parks and recreation were drafted with the help of Ford, as well as the creation of the first community center on the south side, the Walker Ford Center. Satisfying his desire to work in education, Ford became the first African-American administrator at Leon High School. Before his election to the City Commission in '71, Ford devoted 37 years to education in Leon County schools as a teacher, principal, and administrator, during which time he presided over the county's first integrated school staff. Additionally, his leadership and innovation were not limited to his first in education. Ford created the first African-American radio station, WANM, and became the first African-American to manage a radio station in Tallahassee. As a Tallahassee native, he received his early formal education at Macon Elementary, the original Leon High School, and Florida A&M University. Ford spent his life serving others on behalf of his city, but foremost, his country. This service began first in both the United States Navy and the United States Army during World War II and Korea, and then for 14 consecutive years as a Tallahassee City Commissioner. The expansion of opportunities for African Americans was a noble cause for which Ford never stopped fighting for. Ford was granted the undeniable gift of leadership, and like a true leader, he never shied away from the responsibilities that came along with his work or supporting his family, his wife, Clenita, their son, and 2 daughters. With his recent passing at the age of 91, James Ford's lifetime of dedicated service will continue in his legacy, as his legacy remains the basis by which Tallahassee strives to govern and on behalf of all of its citizens. Mayor James R. Ford Sr., and to receive his award, Miss Linda Dilworth. Come on, let's give it up for Mayor Ford, will you? Come on.
It is indeed my distinct pleasure to be here tonight to receive this award on behalf of former Mayor James R. Ford's family and his surviving wife, Dr. Clenita Ford. I must tell you that she looked forward to this event tonight for several weeks and prepared for it until on Saturday she had an unfortunate fall. So I bring her greetings and her thanks and appreciation on behalf of the family. As you heard the reading of his accomplishments, by all accounts, former Mayor Ford I would call him a Renaissance man because he was into so many things. And I want to end this as I give thanks, saying not only did he accomplish the things that he did in education, in business, in politics, and so many other things, one of the things he took pride in was paving the path for others and trying to bring them along. And in so doing, he leaves a legacy not only in this community, but with his family. And I want to just say thank you to all of you who supported the family. And I want to say thank you for this honor that has been bestowed to him. And in his honor as well, I want to mention the fact that he not only stood firm on the things that he accomplished, but he stood firmly for his family. And Dr. Fortenberry, you keep me straight, but he was very staunchly a member of Bethel Baptist Church. He loved his church. And so on behalf of the Ford family and Dr. Clenita A. Ford, I want to say thank you again for this tribute and wish everyone tonight a fair evening and in honor of former Mayor Ford. Thank you.
Akeem Akinyemi, Leon County property appraiser. Akeem Akinyemi was elected in November 2016 following the retirement of Bert Hartsfield, who served the office since November 1992. As the property appraiser, he oversees the state-mandated responsibilities of the office, including managing and certifying property values and exemptions for over 108,000 parcels, which total close to $26 billion in just value and $15 billion in taxable value annually. Akeem has been an active member of the Leon County community for more than 30 years and comes from the closely related fields of architecture and urban planning. In addition, during his time as the Leon County Commissioner, he served as the chair of the Value Adjustment Board. Akeem is married to Elvira. Together, they have 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Educational background: currently Akeem is in the final stages of earning his doctoral degree in urban and regional studies at Florida State University. In 1988, he earned his Master of Architecture from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University. Prior to attending graduate school at FAMU, he earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Architecture and Housing Development from the University of Minnesota and a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Design from the University of Lagos. Prior to becoming the property appraiser, Akeem ran a successful regional architecture firm for over 20 years with offices in Atlanta, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee. He also served as Leon County Commissioner for 4 years. During his time as Commissioner, he served as Chairman from 2011 to 2012 and led on a platform of economic viability, open and accountable government, and environmental sustainability. Before running for office, he tirelessly served nonprofit organizations, the business community, Leon County students, veterans, and those with a commitment to the environment. These experiences provided him an opportunity to better understand issues facing citizens of Leon County, and his past work reflects his love and dedication to the local community. His accomplishments: increasing job creation and workforce development through viability. Under leadership of Akeem, the Commission looked at new and innovative ways to create jobs in Leon County. In the months leading up to Akeem becoming chairman in 2011, county leadership began hosting meetings with local business leaders to discuss topics related to coping through tough economic times, how this affects the creation of jobs, and what Leon County government could do to help create more jobs and grow business. So without further ado, I want to bring up and to award this gentleman who we all know and love. And I want to present him to you for a few words from my friend and my church member, Brother King.
To First Lady Reverend Johnson, I want to thank you so much for your vision and the splendor of this great event. Can't you give them a round of applause, please? This is awesome. I talk to a lot of young kids and to inspire people that if you believe in yourself, if you believe in what you can do in life, don't let anything or anybody ever stop you. And you all know my story, how I lost my election. And I sat out there again for 4 years, still doing what I do, serving people, helping. And when I decided to run again, and I remember this little image that I see all the time, and it says, they tried to bury me. They didn't know I'm a seed. And so, like Maya Angelou says, and so arise. And I can assure you, if you believe in yourself again and you have something over, you can rise again and again and again. Thank you.
I want to give him an award that's not up here on the dais tonight. You know, Brother King, you know, with the health issues of his wife, with raising his family, with serving us here in Leon County, you know, and he's doing it. And, you know, you never know, you know, he is one strong man. And I want all of you to give him the award, you know, that he is due right now, because he is an example of a real man, a real African-American man, taking care of his family, and whatever may come, whatever happens, he stands and he's responsible. And at this time now, we have a few more awards, and I'm going to ask May, if you'll come up and make those presentations.
It's my pleasure to introduce Anita Favors, a trailblazer, a dedicated leader, has created a remarkable legacy in Tallahassee as the first African-American female city manager of Florida's capital city. Originally from Kansas City, Anita was a presidential scholar in college. She earned degrees at Park University in Parkville, Missouri, and at Central Michigan University. And prior to coming to Tallahassee, she served as assistant city administrator with the city of Kansas City, that is Kansas City, Kansas, and as commissioner of adult services for the state of Kansas. In 1990, she was recruited by then city manager Dan Clayman to become assistant city manager, and ultimately, of course, was appointed Tallahassee city manager in 1997, and finally retired, got tired, whatever anyway, at the end of 2015. Under her leadership, in 2010, the city was recognized for its efforts toward environmental stewardship. It was named the most livable community by the International Awards for Livable Community Organization, and the National Livability Award by the U.S. Conference of Mayors. She was also instrumental in the city receiving the Preserve Community Award by the Obama administration in 2010. She led the city in a successful quest to receive the All-America City Award in 1999 and again in 2015. Under her leadership again, the City Utility Department was named #1 public utility, and the park system was declared the best in the nation. She oversaw the operations of a full city with an operating budget of close to $800 million and 2,900 employees. The growth, progress, and physical skyline and development of the city blossomed during the years she served. Some examples: Blairstone Road, Gaines and Madison Street, Cascades Park, and FAMU Way. The Tallahassee City Commission recognized her contributions by naming Lake Anita at Favors Plaza Thompson in her honor. She's a staunch supporter of the arts, the Riley House Museum, and during her career, her professional associations have included serving as National President of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, Vice President of the International City County Management Association. I'm going to get tired here. Since retirement, she's continued to stay highly involved in the community. She served as a member of the Strategic Plan Development Committee for Florida A&M University and as a committee chair for the American Cancer Society. Making strides against breast cancer walk, Delta Alpha Omega chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and the Tallahassee chapter of the Lynx Incorporated. Her honors and special recognition include Woman of Distinction by Florida A&M University and a Tallahassee Legend by the Tallahassee Urban League. Ms. Favors, here we go. I'm tired.
Good evening, everyone. It is certainly my honor and pleasure to receive this recognition this evening. I have to tell you that the Johnsons, Dot Inman Johnson and Reverend Johnson, are dear friends of mine, and Dot was on the city commission that literally brought me here to Tallahassee in 1990. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have been retired for 2 years, and a lot has happened in Tallahassee in that 2-year period. I'm really proud of the number of years. I came here in 1990 and retired almost in 2016, so you know how many years that represents. But I do want you to know something. The city of Tallahassee is a great place. And I mean this community. You all are all my family, my community family. But my city family is here too. And they are the majority of them are a great bunch of people, seriously. There are always a few, as you know, in any organization. But we had 2,900 people in the organization. The folks worked hard then, and they're working hard now. You must hold them accountable. You must tell them what you think, you must tell them what you want, and tell them what you need, and expect them to respond to you. And I assure you, I'm looking at all these great people here. It's just a tremendous honor for me to have them here this evening and be a part of this great event. I think that's a good sign. We're looking forward to a great future, ladies and gentlemen. And believe me, you don't want me coming down to the City Commission meeting, okay? So let's get it together. I love all of you. Thank you so much.
Doris Malloy. Dedicated, committed public servant. She has served the state of Florida in her role as a civil servant and later as an elected official for nearly 42 years. Her career in public service, I'm sorry, Doris, am I giving something away? She's also 43 years old. Her career began in 1976 as a rate analyst with the Florida Public Service Commission. Subsequently, she worked with the Executive Office of Governor Bob Graham, Florida Department of Commerce, Executive Office of Governor Lawton Child, and Executive Office of Governor Jeb Bush. She has brought leadership to the office of Leon County Tax Collector, which she was elected to in 2000, and of course made history as the first African American female to serve in that capacity in Leon County. She has made significant improvements in the office operations and the customer service during her time there. She's active in her community. She supports many initiatives and receives many awards and recognitions. In 2012, she was elected to continue her leadership role as president of the Florida Tax Collectors Incorporated statewide association. Currently, she serves as the Florida representative for the National Association of County Collectors, Treasurers, and Finance. How do you women do this? Which recognized her in 2015 as the recipient of their highest award, the Martinelli Outstanding Treasurer of the Year. She has degrees from Florida A&M, a master's in business from Florida State University. And if I'm overlooking something here, I'm sure she'll forgive me. And her current profession, she's designated as a certified Florida collector and holds a Finance Master 3 certification from the University of Missouri. Forgive me for stuttering here. And she shares her life with her husband, Rudy, 32 years, I got that right? To adult children, Jared and Erin. Ms. Malloy.
Thank you so much.
And looks good. How do they do that?
You know, when you write 42, when you say 42 years, you don't think of it until you hear it. I'm just like, whoo. To Reverend Johnson and the Honorable Dorothy Inman Johnson, and to all of you, good evening. Good evening. As I was sitting there, you know, I was thinking, I wish I could stand and say that, you know, as a young child, I was involved in politics, and so I knew that I wanted to one day run for office and so forth. But I can't really say that. I remember as a small child, I was exposed to politics by, and I thought of this when Reverend Stanley Walker did the blessing. But I was first exposed to politics really by an uncle, Roosevelt Harris. Many of you may remember him. And as a child, I would go over and tidy up his house, and I would overhear conversations. And he would always say things like, you know, the governor just called, and, you know, and that state attorney just called, and so forth. And you know, I was thinking like, yeah, right, yeah, the governor calling. And I can't really say, Reverend Walker, what he exactly said. If any of you knew Roosevelt Harris, you know, but that was my first exposure to really thinking about politics. And then as I got older and just about to finish college, I would come up to the Capitol, and by that time, he had a position in the Capitol, I guess on one of those important floors. And we would walk through the Capitol, and sure enough, you know, we'd take 2 or 3 steps, and here was Attorney General, and you know, here was somebody in the governor's office, and all these names, Dempsey Barron, and all these names that I had just heard, but never had met, you know, and you know, but then you know, so that was my exposure to politics, but I still never crossed my mind that I'd even consider running. I later, years and years later, married Rudy, and he ran for office. And I have to say that, you know, I pretty much, I say, stand on his shoulders, actually, as being one of the first, if not the first, I guess, running, Leon County-wide for an office. And so when I then became, when the position became open for tax collector, I kind of knew what it would take to do it. It was a matter of if I had the energy and I knew I had the desire, and I thought, you know what, all of the experience I've had over the years, it prepared me to become tax collector and to run for office and to serve you as tax collector. And so I just want to thank all of you for the confidence that you have placed in me to serve as your tax collector. It is never a boring day. There is always something new. And I enjoy hearing from you. You know, whether it's something about I didn't get this or why is this. And the funny thing that I can think of is being the tax collector, you know, you can now talk about things like the different payment types and so forth. And so I thought, well, Mom, you know, rather than paying that lump sum, let's just do installments. And so then I heard every quarter, you know, I don't know why my taxes just keep going up. You know, that's what, jokingly, people would say that to me, and I'm thinking like, okay, I hear it in the community, now I gotta hear it home. And I thought, okay, well, I know how to solve that. We're just gonna go back to just making that one time a year, and I hear it once a year. But I have thoroughly enjoyed serving you as tax collector. And I want to thank the Johnsons for this award. It means a lot to be recognized as the first African-American woman to serve in this capacity. And it's just a pleasure to see others who are serving in similar capacities in Leon County. So thank you very, very much.
Dr. Henry Lewis III, the CEO of Red Hills Research Institute in Tallahassee, Florida. Prior to that, he was Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at the American University of Health Sciences in Signal Hill, California. Served as President of Florida Memorial University for 2 years. Previously served as Dean and Professor in the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at Florida A&M University for 18 years. Was Interim President of FAMU. Also served as Dean of the Texas Southern University College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences in Houston for 4 years. A native of Tallahassee, he received undergraduate degrees from FAMU, his Doctor of Pharmacy from Mercer. He completed postdoctoral training in the Institute for Education Management at Harvard University, the National Institutes of Health, the Congressional Operations Institute, the American Association of State Colleges and Universities Millennium Presidential Leadership Program, and Duke University Board of Directors Training Program. Dr. Lewis is past president of the Minority Health Professions Foundation. Under his leadership, the Association of Minority Health Professional Schools and the foundation have secured, got my number here, have secured over $100 million in support of programs and research. He has served as president of the National Pharmaceutical Association, representing more than 10,000 minority pharmacists in the United States. He's the former chairman of the board of the Florida Education Fund. Let's see here, if I can find anything good about him in this. An accomplished biomedical researcher with a focus on sickle cell anemia. He's been the principal investigator on research and training grants totaling over $95 million, has served on numerous governmental review committees, The Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services appointed him to currently serve on the National Library of Medicine Board of Regents. Something good will show up yet. I'm just going to keep going. He previously served on the National Advisory Councils of the National Institute of General Medical Sciences and the National Center for Research and Resources. He has increased the endowment of the FAMU College of Pharmacy from $1 million to over $22 million. Found something good at last. He has published over 25 scientific papers, book chapters, and abstracts, received many awards and honors, the FAMUan of the Century, Outstanding Educator, and you're letting me down here now. Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Award, Outstanding Tallahassean Award, Pharmacist of the Year, Teacher of the Year, Administrator of the Year, and the National Faculty Researcher of the Year. Additionally, Eckerd's Drugs, now CVS, funded the Henry Lewis III Endowed Chair in his name, and the Richardson Lewis Health Center in Tallahassee is named in his honor by the County Commission. Let's see. Nope, we've got one more thing to go here. The National Pharmaceutical Association bestowed its highest recognition, the Wendell T. Hill Award, on Mr. Lewis. He was re-elected to serve a third term on the board of directors of Capital City Bank. How about that, Mr. Lewis?
I think she was talking about somebody else. You know, they say you need to give people flowers while they still live. And tonight I want to give some flowers to a person who started me in this political front, and that's in the person of, this is Anita Davis. You know, I'm not going to be long. I'm going to be like Elizabeth Taylor told her seventh husband, I won't keep you long. But when Al Lawson decided to run for office in 1982, he asked me to work in his campaign, and we worked, had a lot of fish fries on that corner on South Adams Street. And that was a changing time in politics, particularly here in North Florida. Al, as you heard, was the first state representative elected since Reconstruction during that time, and we had never elected a county commissioner in Tallahassee at that time who was African-American descent. Then this Yankee came from New York and became president of the NAACP and said we ought to change that here in Tallahassee, Florida. And we did. Dorothy M. Johnson was chairman of the Political Action Committee for the NAACP, and Anita somehow convinced the Legal Defense Fund of the NAACP to come down and take this case in Tallahassee, and we won the case for single-member districts here in Tallahassee. They looked around and said, who's going to run? And there's two people ran, Mr. C.M. Speed and myself, and I was fortunate enough to be elected. But it was because of Anita and her vision for changing the electoral system here in Tallahassee that I ran. And fast forward to 1986, on the same office that Al Lawson had all those fish fries, I had all my fish fries to become county commissioner. Tallahassee is a great place. Yeah. Anita talked about it, and I want to just compliment her again on all of the tremendous achievements she made as city manager. And all of the people that you're honoring here tonight with me made a difference. But you in this community also made a difference. I see Frank Williams there, who pushed the county and me to start the first county MBE program. We wouldn't have had that program unless people like him to come to the county and demand your own dollars coming back to you in that regard. I see Rudy Malloy here. I see Bill Proctor from the County Commission, Nick Maddox from the County Commission. All came along after we came. And that's what opening that first door does. And when Ms. May gave the history of Leon County, I never knew that those trailblazers back in the 1890s opened those doors for us 100 or more years later. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Sheriff Walt McNeil. Ta-da. A 35-year career as a public servant, Walt McNeil has led the fight against crime in Tallahassee, has been tapped to lead 2 state agencies under former Governor Charlie Crist, has advised the Obama White House and other governments around the globe on law enforcement strategies and tactics. During his 3 years as Corrections Secretary, he put in place Florida's first prison reentry programs, reducing the inmate recidivism rate by nearly 5%. For 10 years, he was at the helm of the Tallahassee Police Department. He was recognized for being a progressive voice with an effective response to citizen concerns. His community policing efforts to control gangs, drugs, and juvenile crime earned him numerous honors, including the Tallahassee NAACP Humanitarian Award, Public Sector Business Person of the Year, and the United States DEA Award. A graduate of the FBI National Academy, McNeil has been a key advisor to the Obama administration on Homeland Security and police morale. In 2020, he was elected to serve on the advisory group that met with Vice President Biden to discuss gun violence. McNeil's experience has been highly sought after by state, national, and international leaders. In 2012, as president of the International Association of Chiefs of Police, Chief McNeil traveled to Lyon, France, where he met with the Secretary General of Interpol and discussed the framework for a partnership between the International Association of Chiefs of Police and Interpol to work cooperatively to prevent acts of terrorism, human trafficking, cyber crimes, and other global policing issues. At the same time, I hear he's a good neighbor, giving his time and talents to many organizations. He has chaired the Heart Walk for the county chapter of the American Heart Association, been honorary co-chair of Lyon's March of Dimes, Walk America campaign, and serves on numerous boards, Southside Rotary Club, Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce, Conference, Boys Town, North Florida, and the Refuge House. The sheriff and his family are active members of the new Mount Zion AME Church. Mr. McNeil, oh, he's all right.
Well, good evening. And I looked at the program and I believe I'm the last speaker. So I got the rest of the night. Let me tell you that Dot and Reverend Johnson, thank you so much for this honor here tonight. You know, I sat there and I listened to all the folks that went before me, and quite honestly, I'm not even sure I should be up here with you guys and the great work that you've done in our community. In fact, but for Anita Favors, I wouldn't be standing here tonight being honored as the first African-American police chief. And you should also know that, and Dot probably doesn't know this, but when she served on the city commission, she single-handedly required that the police department, when police officers interacted with use of force situations in circumstances involving African Americans, that they were required to have a supervisor respond to the scene. I don't know if she remembers that or not, but I happened to be the captain who was acting as police chief during the time when she put that in place. Dot, we got sued. Let me tell you, and you already know this, that all of us who've been recognized tonight, we didn't get there on our own. I can tell you, as I stand here tonight, I can think of Officer Willie Solomon, our first African-American police officer, Fred Lee, Raymond Henry and Tony Ash, and many, many more, who paved the way for me when I came to the police department in 1977. You see the police department today, that was not the police department I came into in 1977. Racism existed in the hallways and in the cars of the officers who patrolled our community. But those officers who came before me, they put up with a great deal, and they forged a path that I was simply able to follow. And so I am grateful to them and for you, the citizens of our community, because there were people like Anita Davis. Anita probably doesn't remember this either, but I served in internal affairs. And she would call me, and she and Reverend Gooden would call me just about every day and complain about something that a police officer had done that I needed to investigate. And I did. This community is a great community, no question about it. But we have to pay attention to what's going on in our community and do as we've always done, and that is rally to the cause and to make sure that we hold each other accountable. I also have to say this before I take my seat. Those persons that I've worked with, I can tell you without any fear of being contradicted that the officers and the staff of the Tallahassee Police Department to whom I worked, they were in fact the people that did the work that enabled me to ascend to positions I'm in. The same thing I see some of my colleagues from the Department of Corrections. One thing or one skill I have, and that is the ability to make sure I've got people around me who know what to do and how to do it. And the same thing's true today with my staff from the Leon County Sheriff's Office. So I thank you for this honor. I thank all of you, the citizens of this community, for believing in me. And I certainly thank my colleagues in the Tallahassee Police Department, Leon County Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections, Juvenile Justice, for being there to help me as we've been on this journey for the last, actually January 2nd of 2018 made it 40 years that I've been serving this community. Thank you. God bless you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to make you love me more than you love anybody else. I've got a list of sponsors to thank and all that. I'm just going to say thank everybody. How about that? Come on, give yourselves a hand of applause. And at this time right now, I just need to simply tell you this. I'm pastor of the church, but I'm not responsible for this. So I want to ask First Lady to just simply acknowledge the people who put this together. I didn't, and I won't take credit for it. I just got them to make me look good.
I'll be very brief, but I want my committee to, standing over there, if there's some in other places where you, Jerry, stand up. Where's Deborah? Stand up. You know who you are. I am proud to say we succeeded. And I want to thank this wonderful, faithful group who stood with me, worked real hard to put this event on. Thank you.